Recording in progress.
Hello, Harry.
How are you?
Hey, how
Yeah,
you doing?
I'm not bad, thanks. Yeah. How you doing?
Look, I've got a terrible cold, like a sort of ongoing flu, cough, cold thing. But
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
um,
It's scary being on the other side of this, I have to admit. Now I
that
know
was
how
my
you
first
feel.
question. How's it feel to be on the other side of the camera?
Um, well, I don't like it, I'll be honest with you. I don't it's how do I feel? I guess it's weird knowing that people are going to be listening to your voice. I don't know. I find it strange.
But you're quite good because you filmed me a few times, and you're quite good at making people feel at ease. But also, if I invariably give like a quite a boring answer, you'll go, "Oh, but don't you think that perhaps this might be the case?" Or what do you think about that? And how did that make you feel? So
Yeah, it's always how do
I'll
you
try and do
feel?
the same for you.
It's always like, how do you feel about this? It's like kind of like Louis Theroux. You're basically a psychologist that's
Yeah,
forcing people to speak about stuff on camera. So yeah.
it was interesting. You mentioned Louis because I've been spending a few minutes going through your portfolio, looking
Oh,
at some
really?
of the topics that you've sort of covered. We should mention at the top of the podcast that. So Harry, do you want to explain sort of how you know me and how you know chess boxing and what you've been doing the last 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, so it's been 3 years or 4 years now. It's been a long time, but I kind of first heard about chess boxing when I saw Seasons Beatings 19, the YouTube video. A friend kind of recommended me to watch it, and I saw Toto the robot come out dancing in his lycra morph suit to It's
Yeah,
Raining Men.
yeah.
and then and then subsequently like amazing chess player, and then subsequently got knocked out in 14 seconds. And I just thought this was it's such like an amazing, interesting sport that people are willing to try something new for the first time and just go out and all guns blazing. I just thought that was incredible. So I think I sent you an email, and then I came down to a session, and I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I loved the fact that it's in like an old amateur boxing club, and they train some like really good fighters. But on a Saturday, there's the trestle table set up, and
Are you
instead of
saying we don't train any really good fighters? What are
you
you
do,
saying?
oh, don't say that. I mean, like Commonwealth Olympics. Hopefully we can get chess boxing to the Olympics one day, and maybe that will be the
Yeah.
case at Islington.
I didn't realize a few things to pick out of that, but I didn't realize that Toto the Robot's entrance was one of the first things you saw because I think for a lot of us it's kind of a pivot point in not just in chess boxing but in our lives. Like it was just the most incredible moment. Um, and yeah, I think from there as well, I think chess boxing's kind of leaned into that kind of weird sort of quasi sort of wrestling character sort of
Yeah.
idea. And I think it's really opened up a huge kind of avenue of entertainment for us. And that was
I
kind of,
think that's
yeah,
I think that's it. And I think, sorry to interrupt, I think that's it. I think when people go out like wholeheartedly just owning a moment, like it frees up the audience to do that as well. Like the audience, I think I'm reminded of Jim Carrey talking about when he first got into comedy, and he said, "Oh, people just want to be free from concern. So if I get up there and I'm concerned, they don't have that sense of like levity from that their lives. So
mm.
the moment that he just got up and owned it and just totally went with his act, that's when his comedy career shot off. And I think same with Richard, the Berserker. Shout out to Richard as well. Like just gets up there in his checkerboard speedos and like just doesn't care. And I think that's when the audience loves the character, um, and loves the person doing it. So yeah.
Yeah. So Harry's been working with us and putting together a film. I think you've got, do you want to tell us quickly about the award you got for
Yeah.
the short film?
Yeah, so I didn't really say so for the past 4 years I've been working with you and with some of the fighters, so Richard, Marie, and Felix. And I've been sorry, I'm with Georgie the dog at the moment. He
Okay.
is barking. I'll just send him out. He's trying to bite my sleeve. One sec. Hey,
Can we
come
see
on.
Georgie?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Here he is. He's a cockapoo. He's
Oh, he's in some of your photographs, I think.
yeah, yeah, he's my
Yeah.
flatmate, and he's called Georgie Ben after. Jorge Benjor, the Brazilian singer, because he's
Okay.
Brazilian.
Okay.
Anyway, he is yeah, he's very cheeky, he's very friendly, like uh loves food basically. But yeah, he's
Well,
cool.
like yeah, like most dogs.
Like most dogs. Um yeah, where was I? I was talking about yeah, so for the past few years I've been filming with you and it's been like a passion project in my spare time. So I've got, my other job where I can, I come and film the events and again. So yeah, recently I applied to the Kodak First Flights Film Fund and they've given me a grant
Mm.
to go and get an editor on board. Um, and that means that I can really sort of pitch that for the Kickstarter. And yeah, the Kickstarter goes live on March the 4th. So yeah, excited about that.
So the kind of the state of play is you've shot all the footage. You've kind of done a little short film. That you've attracted some funding, and now you're
Yeah.
going to the next stage where you basically want to get enough funding to produce a feature length film. Is that the plan, or?
So yeah, so the Kodak First Flights Film Fund is designed, the film fund is designed to set up people to then go on to make a feature. So it's really at this stage the fund is for a short documentary between
Okay,
20 and 30 minutes. So this Kickstarter is for that.
I see.
And
Okay.
so I've done all the pre-production, so I've filmed everything. It's all on a drive, and I've got a rough cut of about 45 minutes. And now I'm getting an editor on board to cut it down to 20 minutes and just like really polish it and make it shine really, so we can enter it into some film festivals.
Because I often speak to you about arranging time for people to come and chat to you and be on camera and stuff, and you're always like, "Oh, I've just spent the last 16 hours in the back of an ambulance in like the northeast of the
Yeah,
UK."
yeah.
So what are you doing? So this is a passion project, but what are you doing? For your work.
Yeah, so I a lot of blue light shows. I'm filming a lot of blue light shows, which is kind of quite popular nowadays. So with the police,
Mm.
um, with the ambulance service, and there's a series called Ambulance, which is in its 13th series now. It's for BBC One, and they first started filming in London, and then they've gone around all of the UK. So Newcastle, that was my first series, Middlesbrough, and then I went to Manchester, Lancashire, and yeah, you're literally following on the shoulder of all the paramedics. And so, I filmed, yeah, 12-hour shifts for about 12 weeks in total with the paramedics in the ground, in the trucks, as well as the advanced paramedics in the cars. And they go to all the kind of juicy jobs or the sort of grisly
Yeah, I mean,
ones.
I don't want to dwell it too much because this is supposed to be a light podcast, but I
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
the kind of stuff that you're dealing with, must be quite traumatic to be doing it, for 12 hours, day after day.
It can be, yeah, and especially when you're with like the helicopter medics as well, you go to a lot of
Mm.
jobs, but also there's like a lot of light in it as well. Like, you're going to like 99-year-old Nana Downs and things like that. So
Mm.
picking them up and really the documentary is like it's it's like vignettes into people's worlds. So you meet them in their house and then you travel with them to hospital, and it's a really short window in which to explore not just their lives but the social issues in that
Mm.
area.
Mm.
And I think it's a really nice vehicle to do that. And then obviously you explore the paramedic stories as well. So yeah, it's a good show to work on. And at the moment, I'm working on a murder program as well, which is following the murder investigations in West Mercia. And so yeah, it's pretty.
So do you get so
It's
as a
not.
as a as a camera operator or director, do you get typecast? Because I mean, it feels like you're basically doing very similar sort of products.
Yeah. I think it's hard once you started doing one thing, you become confident at doing that, then you do get typecast. And I think in our industry, it's quite because it's all observational documentaries usually. There's never any promise of like there being a story
Mm.
or there being stuff to film. You turn up and maybe something happens. So I think people are really reluctant to take risks on people they don't necessarily know can deliver certain jobs.
Because if
So
you miss that particular moment, that could be, hours and hours of filming, wasted.
gone, yeah, exactly. So yeah, but then also I've done other stuff like I worked on a documentary, Freddie Flintoff's Field of Dreams on tour, which was amazing. Went to India with Freddie. He's a really lovely chap, and yeah. So there's there's some fun stuff as well. And currently, I'm working on a educating Yorkshire, which is 66 cameras inside a school. So
Mm.
it's, it's varied. So yeah,
I always think cricketers' lives are the best because you get your cricketing career and then you probably get a job basically commentating on cricket, traveling out to India or Pakistan or wherever, just in hot climates, spending all day watching cricket. It sounds like an absolute dream.
yeah. It's pretty amazing being out there. But yeah, so yeah, let me
So
just close some more.
your passion projects, you mentioned earlier in the interview talking about Louis Theroux, that your passion projects seem to be more kind of on the fringes of society. I guess they seem to be quite sporting related, but you're looking for like niche communities. Is that right? How would you characterize what interests you personally?
I think it's like, hmm. I guess it is, I sort of started watching documentary with Weird Weekends, and Louis Theroux is like kind of like going into a director I used to work with said it's like going into a rock pool and like picking
Okay.
up some rocks and like looking underneath and saying hello to people, and like, there's little communities and that. And so yeah, I think I'm quite interested in what's weird,
Mm.
but also people just being like authentically themselves. And I think that's what's really nice about documentaries. You get a chance to ask like you get a chance to ask questions that you wouldn't normally ask. I'd never I'd find it strange to come up to you and ask you certain questions about how you're feeling about this and that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um
I think certainly chess boxing, one of the things I like about it is people there's a filter, isn't there? You don't become a chess boxer unless you've got a certain sort of personality type.
yeah,
And one of the requirements is not to take yourself too seriously and to be quite comfortable in what you're doing. To go along to a gym on a Saturday, do something which is in most people's minds kind of ridiculous. But if that's what you like doing, you kind of you just do it because you like it. You don't really do it. You don't worry about what other people think. Um,
exactly.
and I find that quite attractive about the people that do chess boxing. Tell me a bit more about bare knuckle boxing because obviously there's a boxing link there, but I can't imagine it. Well, perhaps I'm being unfair, but I imagine the sort of crowd is quite a different crowd to a load of chess players boxing.
Yeah. Yeah, so another documentary I'm working on, just for context, is a bare knuckle boxing film with Vice, and we filmed in the summer um, with their community, and it's called Spartan Fight Club, and it's 8 by 8 hay bale arena, so it's really close combat. It's like standing and banging. That's what they call
Mm.
it. And
Mm.
I think Christian Jonas says if you want draws, go to IKEA. So that's yeah. He describes so it sort of they have quite a lot of events on over the years, but it culminates in Fight Festival.
Mm.
Um, Christian also describes as a violent Woodstock. So
Yeah.
he's given the lead, the kind of owner of Spartan has got some great one-liners. But he what was I going to say? So yeah, bare knuckle boxing. I think for it's hard to draw comparisons really because the reasons for getting in there are
I saw
it's
a
hard.
little bit of it. I went to, you know, our friend Richard Fraser. So he's done
Mm,
some work on a different documentary around bare knuckle boxing. And
yeah,
he got some free tickets. And I went to the O2 Indigo to watch
yeah,
bare knuckle boxing. And I was going in there expecting to be quite traumatized by the sporting action.
yeah,
And actually, it was the other way around. I was absolutely petrified by the people watching. But the
yeah,
actual bare knuckle boxing was not nearly as bad as I thought because I think because they're not wearing gloves and because they've got no protection, the bouts are very short and it is kind of brutal, but it's
yeah,
somehow it's I was expecting people to be coming out of the ring like covered in blood. It wasn't really like that at all. It was actually quite short bursts and quite technical. Um,
yeah,
but the crowd were just like, yeah, it was they were pretty frightening. I mean, I
I
can't
think
go into like the kind of stuff that was happening, you know, like in the toilets and stuff like that. But there was a lot
yeah,
of kind
yeah,
of very like sort of het up machismo sort of flowing around the room that
yeah,
is not really my kind of scene at all.
yeah. I think the crowd is safe to say is quite different from chess boxing. But
Yeah. Yeah.
people shouting chess, chess, chess. But when I first turned up to the bare knuckle boxing thing, it was in a Bradford hotel. So like you've got people sort of checking in, and then in the lobby you've got this
Yeah.
hay bale arena, and people sort of screaming and like really sort of drinking in the violence. But yeah, you're right. It does. I think sometimes boxing can be more brutal because it's so repetitive over a
Mm,
longer period of time. And with bare knuckle boxing, it's if you get hit with a body shot or get hit in the head, it's usually over. Like
mm.
it can just end like that. But yes, one of the MCs was saying it smells like creatine and steroids in here, like screaming at the top of his lungs. So it
It's
was that sort of
yeah. It's interesting though because we had a chess boxing festival last summer, and I
yeah.
wanted to do like a hay bale auditorium, so I thought it'd be awesome. But I was too worried about the health and safety issues, having straw and the fire and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So we ended up not doing it. But it's interesting that they did that. I guess they just had it outside, did they? Or was it covered?
They had it outside,
Okay.
but when they do inside, they have to cover it with like, fire safety blankets and stuff
Oh,
like
I
that.
see. Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, maybe I could explain a bit about that documentary. So yeah, so the bare knuckle boxing film, it's really a play. How am I going to describe this? It's a 45-minute documentary for Vice, and it
Mm,
explores guys that are getting into the ring to have a bare knuckle boxing fight. Some of them are like pretty good fighters. Some of them are like first time or have a go heroes, and a lot of them sort of struggle with mental health or addiction,
mm,
um, uh, alcoholism, homelessness, things like that. And it's in a sort of unexpected way, it's become a sort of safe haven for a lot of fighters to have this kind of brutal experience and then as a result be able to be vulnerable with each other and like
mm,
find a sense of community.
mm,
And for a lot of people that were violent and have done prison time, they're now doing Spartan, and they're sort of not going into that world again, and it's kind of helping them a lot. So the documentary sort of explores a few characters going through that journey. But yeah.
yeah, I mean, boxing is kind of known for that kind of thing as well, isn't it? Yeah, keeping people out of prison, and particularly, there's a lot of youth programs that use boxing to give people confidence, and they don't feel like they need to be violent or impose themselves physically because they've got the confidence of being, in a ring and having that experience.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's probably like a subtle shift, isn't it? It's why a lot of people do chess boxing is to
mm,
I think that coming back to what we spoke about earlier was like the whys of why I like chess boxing is that a lot of chess players maybe haven't gone into that boxing environment before or haven't or maybe dealing let me see how I can explain it. They're maybe sort of struggling with that side of themselves, so that physical confrontation or not feeling confident in being able to stand up for yourself. And I think just trying it, having that discipline, it can really help in really subtle ways as well, just in terms of how you carry yourself. So
mm.
yeah, I like that.
Um, and in terms of so obviously you've been filming this for a few years now, and
Mm.
obviously you don't want to give too much away or any spoilers, but have there been any particular moments that have been particularly special to you or particular running sort of narratives that you think might be interesting to people? Why should someone go and watch Chessboxer?
I think I think because that's a good question. Oh, you put me on the spot now. I think filming with Richard has has been amazing, really, to see. So when I first met Richard, the first thing he said to me is that I turn up to chess boxing because I'm terrified of fighting, and I'm trying not to give too much away because in some ways it depends how we edit the film.
Mm,
It might not be obvious that Richard fights to begin with, if that makes sense. So, but I think seeing Richard step in the ring for the first time and like overcome a lot of his fears in front of an audience as well. I think anyone can relate to that. Like we've all tried something new. Like even doing this Zoom call, I'm kind of scared doing this podcast or having a job interview. And someone described it once as like, it's always the thought of it's always scarier than just going into it and doing it. And I think that was really nice to see Richard come out and his brother turned up as well. His brother was like, "I'm so proud of you." And
Mm.
I think that for me, that's the core of it really is following Richard's journey and seeing him succeed. I think that's been a highlight.
Yeah, it's always a very nervous. Like the first 10 seconds of a box of the first boxing round is always a very nervous moment for me. So I would say that probably about two-thirds of the matches I make are with people that have done it before. When I say done it before, they've actually done a chess boxing fight before, or they've been
Yeah,
in a ring before, not just sparring, because it is quite a different, it is a step up. Um, and yeah, that so about a third of them they've never fought before.
yeah,
Um, and you can do so much. You can watch them spar, you can talk to them, you can get an understanding of what they're like, how they're feeling about the fight, leading up to it, whether they're working hard, etc., etc. And they may be doing all the right things, and then they get in the ring and their mind just explodes, and they can't focus on what they're supposed to be doing. All of that training goes out the window. They just completely lose it. And 9 times out of 10, if that happens, that they'll probably end up getting knocked out.
yeah.
Or,
What's that like for you though? As a matchmaker, what's that like for you?
it's
You know,
awful.
in
It's
terms of
awful.
sort of trying to match people for the first time, it must be tricky.
Yeah, it's awful. And obviously, so everyone's got to have their first fight. Um, and we try not to have too many on one bout, but on one night, because that risk is always there. Um, but yeah, and sometimes I've had fighters. Obviously, I'm not going to sort of mention them, but um, that sort of thing has happened, and then they want to fight again, and eventually I say, well, okay, but we talk it through. Exactly the same thing happens, and
Don't get knocked
it's
out again.
um, and I know Richard. So we're talking about Richard at Evens-Lacy. I know he was very nervous before his fight, but there was also another fighter who was actually in. It was funny because Dashwell Shaw, I don't think he'll mind me saying, like he was so nervous before his fight, and I could tell, like, you could just see him standing in the ring, and it was just like the tension was unbearable. But then once he got into the fight, like 20 seconds into the fight, he was totally fine to the extent where he was doing like little sort of nonchalant sort of like head wiggles and stuff like that. But that
Yeah.
first
Well,
10 seconds,
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
that first 10 seconds is always very nerve-wracking for me because you just never really know how people are going to react.
Yeah, it's a complete unknown, isn't it?
Mm.
And then also, I think the sort of jubilation, the coming out of that experience, like you can see for the rest of the evening, the fighters that have been on, they're just absolutely buzzing, even if they've lost. And I
Yeah,
think that's amazing. Did Dashel fight the Minotaur? Was that his first
that's
ever?
right. Yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, I filmed that. He won that, didn't he, in the
He
chess.
did win it, yeah. And it's interesting you're talking about the bare knuckle boxers then finding like a place in the community because often people that fight, win or lose, they'll end up becoming quite close, like quite close friends because it's a very like intimate experience having
Yeah.
a boxing fight with somebody. You don't really have time for anything else around you. It's just that you and that person.
Well,
And I
you've
definitely
technically.
it creates a bond.
Oh, sorry. Finish that thought. Sorry.
No, go on. That was it.
Oh, I was just saying, like you're basically trying to kill each other. You're basically trying to kill each other, especially in bare knuckle. They're like not
Yeah.
literally, sort of simulated, isn't it? So I don't think anything can come close to that experience. So,
Yeah, you are, but also the fact that you both survived it, there's like a respect. It's a bit, I guess it's a bit like two stags like butting heads. In the when they're doing it, giving it their all, but afterwards, you kind of got to say, well, you did pretty well. You stood up to me
yeah,
and I stood up to you.
and that reminds me actually, because the bare knuckle boxing syndicate that is set up, the Spartan Bare Knuckle Boxing Fight Club, was set up to combat knife crime. So it was
Mhm.
initially set up so that people could get in a ring, have a fight, shake hands, and then have a pint afterwards. And that's
Yeah.
the kind of motto. And so I filmed literally with friends that have fallen out, threatened each other with violence, and also like using weapons. And I filmed them get in the ring. One person's lost, and the other person shakes their hand. So one person loses and they shake hands, but then that settles the beef because
Mm.
it's sort of a kind of ordering of like the hierarchy. There's no buttings of head anymore. It's like
Mm,
it's conclusive, it's done, and we can move on.
mm.
So
Yeah, well, yeah, we don't have any beef quite like that, but yeah. So Harry, I've got to
I
ask
know.
you, we have spoken about it. Have you got any aspirations to perhaps get in the ring yourself?
I really do. I do. And I keep saying this. The thing with me is I've basically I recently was I've got a hip issue at the moment, so I have to. It's probably a bit too much to share, but have to have a hip re replacement. So it really, for me, it's been like a real changing point in my life in terms of like what I can do physically, and maybe that's why I've been drawn more recently to documentaries about sport, because for me, sport was like a big part of my life, and now I can't run. I can still cycle, I can still swim, and I can still like walk about, but it's a lot of pain to do boxing. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's a bit of a down. I put a bit of a downbeat on that, but
No,
yeah,
that's okay. Well, I guess if you, I mean, I don't know if you can do it with a replacement hip or not. I don't know. I don't know how good they are. Whether that
that
would,
could be my ring name, like
yeah,
the
something to
the.
do with the Terminator. Like you've got like a, it's like a cyborg related
Yeah,
ring
we,
name.
I could do something with Toto. We could come out together, like do the robots
Yeah.
together.
I wouldn't put
I
you up
don't.
against Toto though. I think your chess would need a bit of polishing for that probably.
Oh God, yeah, I'd hope so. I think I'm about 1200 my chess rating at the moment. So what?
We are actually doing. I mean, it sounds like perhaps you won't be able to do it. It might be too painful, but we're launching a new. It's kind of like it's a. I guess it's training. So it's like a way of people experiencing or getting closer to what it's like to be in a ring. It's partly because of the experiences we've had with matching people.
Yeah.
And basically, it's called Chessboxing Ocho. So it's not a competition. It's conditioned sparring, but it's in the same format as a real chess boxing fight. So you play chess, there'll be an arbiter, and then you'll box. So you go about the same game as chess, then you'll box with an opponent to a conclusion. And on the 1st of
Oh,
March, we're hoping to get eight chess boxers, and they'll be fighting simultaneously. So as one pair is playing chess, another pair is in the ring, then they swap over.
oh wow, it's like tag
Um,
team. It's like WWE. It's great.
Yeah, yeah, kind of. So I'm hoping that that will be an entry for people like yourself who not sure if they want to actually do a proper fight, but want to kind of sort of test the waters and see, get as close as they possibly can. And we're also going to be filming the Ocho as well. So after the Ocho, we're going to analyze the boxing and analyze the chess and like provide feedback, and that will all be part of the sort of the training process. Um,
Sounds,
so
sounds
yeah, we're
great.
quite excited to see how that works and whether it's valuable to people or not. Because yeah, I tend to we're just trying to close that gap between sparring and training and actually being in a proper fight, which is not so easy.
Yeah, there's one thing coming to training and then and doing a bit of sparring, and then there's one thing, yeah, getting in the ring.
Yeah.
It's especially in front of 400 people. I think
Yeah. Well,
that's
I'm glad you brought that up, Harriet, actually, because we're going to be in front of 600 people on the first.
600.
Yeah. Got a
Wow, is
new
that how
venue.
many have you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hope you'll be there. We've got a new venue. Well, it's a new old venue. It's Scala in King's Cross.
Oh, amazing. Okay.
Yeah, so I fought there twice. I fought Matt there actually, Matt Reed. Um, and we've had many events there. It's a wonderful venue. It's very it's a bit like the Thunderdome. You know how like people are hanging off like
Yeah.
structures and like crowding right over the ring.
Oh,
Great
wow.
sound
Nice.
system, lighting rig. It's going to be fantastic. Tickets are still available at chessboxingnation.com, and the whole thing is going to be streamed live as well. So if you can't get down to London, you should go on our YouTube and check out the live stream. Do you want
You're
to
getting
tell
your plug
people?
in, Gavin.
Yeah,
You're
yeah. Well,
getting
I was
your
gonna let, I was gonna let you get your plug in next. Where can people come and find information about the film?
Yeah, so you can go on chessboxer.org or www.chessboxer.org. I've had a bit of an issue with the website. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, chessboxer.org, and you just scroll down to the bottom. Well, firstly, there's a trailer, and then you scroll down to the bottom and you can sign up on a form. And I'm looking for pledges of 99p, and you just fill in your details. And then when the crowdfund goes live on March the 4th, that is when the true donations are going to come in, hopefully. Um, yeah.
Okay. And we're also, well, I'll put a link in the show notes. We're also going to have, we're working with you for some merch prizes as well. So there'll be a few incentives
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, that'd be
donate.
great. That'd be great,
Um,
yeah. And if anyone sort of would like to donate a reward to the Kickstarter, that would be amazing. I'm open to ideas, and I can do sort of partnerships as well. So I can put that in. I can put their branding in the marketing and vice versa. So
yeah.
yeah.
So I've
Um.
seen a few of the trailers and stuff, and I perhaps I'm biased, but I think it's fantastic. I think you're all very talented, Harry. I don't want to embarrass you on the podcast, but I genuinely think you've done a fantastic job, and I can't wait to see the finished product. We're almost out of time, but one question I ask everybody: what is your favorite chocolate bar?
Oh, what's my favorite chocolate bar? I quite like those. A Galaxy. I quite like a Galaxy.
Okay,
That's
that's very
my.
rich, very very
Yes,
like.
I love if it's sweet and rich, then that's me.
I mean,
I can eat that.
I probably handle like two or three of those squares, and then I'm just like, this is too
You're
much,
done.
too much.
It's good
But
to keep a wrap.
you're chowing down the whole bar.
Oh man, I need sugar to keep going half the time. So yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
suppose
also
you're doing like super long shifts, aren't you?
yeah. What's your favorite?
I've recently got back into curly whirlies. I happened to mention to somebody in my office that I like curly whirlies, and now every time I go in, if they've gone out to buy whatever, they buy me a curly whirly. So I'm basically having like two or three a week at the moment.
That's
Um,
vintage. That's vintage chocolate. That curly wurly.
well, yeah, but the ones now. You remember, you're not as old as me, but curly whirlies used to be huge, like they're huge like this. I mean, they're all full of holes, aren't they? But they just look massive. But now they're just tiny. Like they're just shrunk to like the size of this pen.
Inflation, chocolate
Right.
inflation. I think Freddos are 99p now, aren't they? I
Maybe,
saw in a
yeah. Maybe. I do I quite like a Twix or something with a bit of biscuit in. I can't handle a whole like just solid sugar, like rich. It's too much. Too much.
too much.
But
I'm glad we covered this. It's a good.
yeah.
I just want to say as well, big shout out to Marie for putting up with me for a long time filming. She's been amazing. I think that was another
Mm.
highlight of filming as well, as filming her play Alex Botes
Yes.
and Simon Williams as well. GM Simon Williams, shout out to him as well, and obviously shout out to Felix,
Yeah.
um, who Felix Intensely, who is amazing and just a joy to be around. So yeah, thanks for everything, guys.
Yeah, Marie looks particularly good on camera. She's very cinematographic. I don't know if that's a word.
She's very cool. Like, the first
Yeah.
day I filmed with her, we walked into what's the uni called by the the
UCL.
Royal Albert the Royal Albert Hall. There's a uni there.
University College London, is it? I don't know.
I think it's like yeah, we went to this chess tournament anyway, and literally walk in. She's wearing her French Labour jacket, her sunglasses. She's got like her red nails, and then she just played like, against 50, or that you just see a sea of like 50 kind of grey-haired men.
Yeah.
She looked cool. So, yeah. And that's where that shot is of the reflection in her glasses where you can see the chessboard. But yeah, yeah, she looks cool in it.
Okay. Well, if you'll allow, maybe we'll use that as a cover for this podcast because it's a great image. Um, yeah, thanks very much for spending so much time with us, Harry. It's been a real pleasure. And thanks for coming on the podcast. Can't wait to see the finished product. And if there's anything we can do to support you, we certainly will.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for putting up with my questions for the last 3 years. So yeah, it was nice that it's on the other side. Also, last shout out to Islington Boxing Club as well, Lenny and Jake. They were amazing and like, allowed me to film with them as well. So thank you.
Brilliant. Cheers, Harry.
Cheers. Have a good one. Bye bye.